My name is Keith Cole, and I'm the Executive Director for the Wolf River Conservancy. We want to welcome you to tonight's lecture and presentation, which we think will be informative as well as entertaining. It's the guide to the Greenway, the Wolf River Greenway, that is, and we hope you enjoy it. First, we want to recognize tonight's sponsors. We have a corporate sponsor, which is Buckman. We have our foundation sponsor, which is the Crawford Howard Private Foundation. So thank you both for your support tonight. We also want to recognize our corporate benefactors: Bank of America, Brother International, FedEx, Hyde Family Foundation, International Paper, Jim Cara Subaru, and Reen Container Technologies. Thank you all for your support 365 days a year to help the Wolf River Conservancy. Of course, we want to thank all of our donors and volunteers that help us deliver on our mission, which is to conserve and enhance the Wolf River and its watershed as a sustainable natural resource. Thank you all. A little housekeeping: we ask you not to record tonight's event. We are recording it and we will have it posted on our website later this week. And if you have questions, we ask you to use the chat feature. Kathy Justice, our Director of Education, will be monitoring the questions as they come in. At the close of the evening, we'll address all those questions with our moderators. The presenters tonight, we're very pleased to have our former presenters. First is Mr. Chuck Flink. Chuck is our Master Design Partner with Alta Planning and Design. He's also the President and Founder of Greenways, Inc. He is an award-winning landscape designer and planner, and also an author of several books on greenways. So we're very pleased to have Chuck with us tonight. We also have Mr. Findley Frazer. Findley leads the project for the Wolf River Conservancy, the Wolf River Greenway project, that is. He's a graduate of Vanderbilt University. He's an environmental engineer. Before leading the Wolf River Greenway Trail project, he's led several different projects throughout the South, both on parks and trails. And then concluding our formal presentation will be Mr. Nick Wiggins. Nick is the Community Conservation Manager for the Wolf River Conservancy. He has a master's degree in urban planning, and he leads the community outreach for the Greenway throughout the 22 different neighborhoods that the project will go through in the city of Memphis. So we're very pleased to have this body of folks with us here tonight presenting, and we know you're going to enjoy it. And again, we encourage you to ask questions along the way. Before we do have a very brief, about a 3-minute video to show you. Mr. David Mills, who's with the University of Tennessee Health Sciences. Recently, we had a chance to sit down and speak with him about his perspective on the Wolf River Greenway and how it's so important to our city. So sit back and relax and enjoy this presentation from David, and then to our formal presenters. If you have, depending on your internet connection, the first video may be a little choppy on the video side, but the audio should be good. And once the video is over, the balance of the program should be very well received. So hopefully you won't have any difficulties, but thank you all for being here, and we look forward to seeing you at the end of the program. Thank you. We can start the video now.
Hi, I'm David Mills, and I want to make sure I thank Mr. Cole for allowing me to be part of the conversation about the Wolf River Greenway.
I'm here with David Mills, University of Tennessee Health Sciences. I wanted to introduce you to him because David has an interesting perspective on the Wolf River Greenway Trail and trails in general. David, welcome, and thank you for being here tonight.
Keith, thank you for the opportunity for this occasion. I am convinced that this is the most resiliently creative place in the country. There's no question about it. What I did not know, having grown up listening to the music that came out of this place, was how magnificent the landscape is. Until I saw the Mississippi River for the first time when I was about a teenager. And then I didn't know there was another another river that fed into
the Wolf River.
The Wolf River. You know, Memphis has the assets, and I say Memphis, I mean all of Shelby County. It's like when I say Los Angeles, I don't mean just the city proper. It's that whole region around. Memphis has some assets that are just incredible, unbelievable. I don't know that there is a city that has the history of resilience that this place has. It has, Memphis has the highest population loss of any city in American history ever. And came back. What is it about this place that comes back again and again and again and again?
Do you see the Wolf River Greenway helping grow Memphis from an economic standpoint, from a quality of life standpoint, or do you see that in our project in the city?
It has the ability to transform the city. You know, we can't meet and gather like we used to right now. So, I mean, the ability, social activities are being severely limited and restricted. The ability to get out and just ride a bike, take a walk, and watch the birds. Simple things that for thousands of years, with the exception of the bicycle, that's what you did. You enjoyed nature, and you enjoyed the things of the outdoors.
Right.
Memphis, with the Wolf River Greenway, provides an opportunity for someone who's beginning their journey to say, when they're making choices about where they want to be, given that they can be any place.
Right.
That's the place for me.
Right.
Because it has all the assets.
Right.
Lowest cost of living of any major city in the country.
Right.
But Memphis's greatest asset is its people. That's why we're sitting here today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the friend that introduced us to one another.
Right.
I didn't know who you were.
Right.
But I mean, that's the quality of the character of this place. That asset, when you take the Greenway and add it to the character of the people, and then the environment that they have to operate in, to say, look, let's go take a walk, or let's go take a bike ride, or let's go watch birds, or let's just go experience the river. I mean, it just provides options for people who, if you want just a little bit of space where you can just get out and get peace and rest, a Greenway affords you the opportunity for that kind of experience, no matter where you live. If you got a Greenway, you can I ride my bike from here. I go straight down Germantown Parkway to the Greenway and go straight in to downtown.
Wow.
It's 18 miles.
Wow.
But I mean, it's a great, for me, it's so relaxing.
That's great. Okay. David, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and thank you for sharing your perspectives on the Wolf River Greenway and what you've seen not only in Memphis but across the country. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, this is Chuck Flink, and I just really want to echo what David Mills shared with us tonight. I've been fortunate to have been a part of this project and working in Memphis for the past 6 years, and I just support what he said. I think what makes Memphis so special and what makes this project so special are the people of the community. Findley, we can go to the next slide. The long-term vision of this Greenway is a 38-mile trail that will connect from downtown all the way out to Collierville. And then really, if you look at the bigger vision, there's an opportunity to connect to an emerging state of Tennessee cross-state greenway system that's slowly beginning to be cobbled together. So you might look at yourself as being on the western edge or the western side of a cross-state greenway across the state of Tennessee. And when I got involved in the project, we referred to this project as really two things: a corridor of opportunity and a catalytic project. We can go to the next slide, Findley. And it's more than just a trail. And I really want to emphasize that. We can kind of flash through the next couple of slides, Findley, but it's about conservation. It's certainly about restoring a landscape that has seen a lot of use and abuse through the years. It's about connecting and educating. This is one of the most powerful things that I think is happening with the program and the project today. And congratulations to the Wolf River Conservancy. We certainly have employed a lot of folks over the last few years, mostly in construction, but more employment, could be happening in the future. We can go to the next slide. And David Mills talked about how he uses as a transportation corridor. So that's awesome. You have that firsthand testimony. This is one of the major functions of the Greenway. We can go to the next slide. And I think a lot of people think about greenways and the outdoor landscapes as a place to recreate, and you'll see evidence of that when you hear from both Nick and from Kathy on the programs that are happening. And we can go to the next slide. But one of the most important things, and this is so critical today because we are in this pandemic and people are looking for landscapes that they can get, socially distance and get outdoors and renew and refresh and revitalize. And greenways have become maybe the most important landscape in America today in terms of meeting the challenges that so many urban places have. We can go to the next slide. But ultimately, it's about connections. And this is what greenways do. They connect us to nature. They connect us to our communities, our neighborhoods, our cities. And most importantly, they connect us to each other. And this project is doing that. So this is a project that's been long in process of developing over 30 years, going back to the original vision. And now during the past 6 years, construction and development. We go to the next slide. We've really tried to think about ways in which we make those connections important and meaningful. Certainly, it was discussed in the video about the need for health and fitness. So making that connection is important. Next slide. And the possibility of commuting, not just to work, but to school and to friends' houses and just all across the city. And the connection, by the way, between the Greenway and the Green Line, and Green Line's been around for a long time, and those are two completely different landscapes, but that connection is really important to support that commuting. The opportunity to connect all the way to the downtown, as David Mills testified there just a minute ago. He rides his bike all the way into the downtown, about 18 miles. And then, next slide, connecting all the way out to wonderful Shelby Farms Park and to Germantown. So it's a powerful project. It offers so much potential, but it's quite complicated. And so the next slide, the first thing that we did when we got involved was talk about the need to engage the community. And we went through a very detailed engagement process. And again, I have to compliment the Wolf River Conservancy because not a lot of engagement had been done. And it was quite complicated. Some of the neighborhoods and some of the landscapes we were going through, people were completely unaware that a project was being talked about. We spent 9 months of doing nothing really but engagement, going out and talking to neighborhoods and to citizens and getting everyone's opinion. And that was back in 2015. So we spent a considerable amount of time and energy and effort listening to people. And then we began to really put the project together in its final form. So, there's no question it's a complicated project, but it's really more than just a trail. At the heart of this is the Wolf River Conservancy and its mission to do conservation. And there's no better way of telling the story of conservation than to put people into the landscape. And you've been successful at doing that from the standpoint of water trails. And this land-based trail is significant. And you're talking about an enormous watershed. So anytime we can connect people with the land and the landscape and show them, the good sides of that landscape and show them areas that are really troubled and in peril, it's important. So this is a catalytic project. It's a project, as Findley's going to talk about here in just a minute. It's quite complicated, but we're having a lot of success with the sections that we've opened, a lot of public support. It's about $62 million in total expenditures, but there's a huge economic payoff in getting the entire project done. And we profiled that in a study that was released about 5 or 6 years ago, where we talked about $14 million in total annual benefit per year. But there's I think it's easy to say, well, why aren't we done already? And Findley will go through that, quite complicated in that regard. But I hope that what we'll do tonight is celebrate the accomplishments of the Conservancy, celebrate what we do have open and how it's already changing the culture and the life of Memphians, how it's opening up opportunities for education and outreach, and connections to nature. I've certainly been really honored to be a part of this process, and will be happy to answer any questions that you have of me, at the conclusion of the presentation. But now I'd like to turn it over to Findley, and have him walk you through the real detailed aspects of what it takes to get some aspects of this project on the ground. So thank you so much. And Findley, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it. And as Chuck said, this has been a very detailed, complicated project, and Chuck has been on it from basically the inception. So I'm going to take you guys through kind of from an idea up to construction my first segment. And so I think Darren Blanc, our board member, said this best. He said, people take for granted, that at some point in the past, a group of community leaders came together and rallied around an idea to put a greenway together and transform the city. And so, what happens after that idea is born? Financial commitments are made. So people are wondering, basically, why isn't my trail built yet? You guys been talking about this forever. So kind of wanted to walk through the steps of how it works. So, these community leaders, along with the public, they really are they're the stakeholders, the public, and so being the most important, obviously. But the Wolf River Conservancy, through its leadership and hard work, has garnered the stakeholders of the City of Memphis Division of Parks and Neighborhoods and the Shelby County government. And so those stakeholders, have come together and said, this is something that we value and we want to do. So they didn't really you can't go out and just start building. So Chuck mentioned, we have to develop consensus among the public. So how did we do that? And so we engaged the public through extensive neighborhood meetings. And that took about 9 months. This was a process they went through back in 2015. And then there have to be meetings, between the individual stakeholders, make sure that the stakeholders agree on everything. So then what happens from there? We have conceptual routes that are drawn. You got to hire a design firm to help you with that. So these routes are drawn, additional input is received, and then there's further refining of these routes. And then out of that, kind of final routes are chosen. And these alignments, they're chosen for further study or design. So where do you go from that step? Then we start, really spending some dollars and starting to make this thing take shape. Is that surveys are performed. We have topographic surveys that have to be done. We have environmental surveys for wetlands and streams and contaminated properties, endangered and threatened species, and archaeological, historic properties and cultural materials. So all of that affects where our final alignments will end up being. So from that, plans are developed, and then the stakeholders all have to approve these plans. There are revisions of plans because different items are more valuable to certain stakeholders than others. And so finally you get a consensus around a final plan. Then the permits need to be obtained. So we got to go back, and this is like alphabet soup here. Every acronym that you can think of comes into play. So you got to go to TDEC and the Corps of Engineers for your wetland and stream permits, the Fish and Wildlife Service for endangered and threatened species, TDEC and EPA for any contaminated sites that we've come across. And then we have to get no-rise permits from the city and from FEMA. I mean, you do realize, we are building in the floodplain and floodway of the Wolf River. So that's a challenge in and of itself. So then real estate needs to be acquired. Appraisals have to be performed, and boundary surveys need to be done. They're missing deeds. They're jointly owned properties between descendants of a relative, and You have to track down, 8 cousins and get everybody to agree. A lot of the properties are jointly owned by city and county. So when we go through those properties, we have to go through the county commission and the city council to acquire or set aside an easement on those parcels. And then we have some properties that are tax sale properties. So there's a whole host of things going on in the background. And from that, so then once we get all those things done, we can start to prepare a final bid package. And these are our final plans and specifications, our estimated quantities of dirt, concrete, steel, final easements will be drawn. And then any requirements from any of those permits that we've obtained, those have to be spelled out or specified in the specifications or on the plan set. Then we got to bid the project. We have to advertise the project and hold pre-bid meetings and receive the bids. From there, we'll review the bids, check our quantities or alternatives, do the references or past performance of a contractor that has done work for us before. We have to check their ongoing workload, make sure they're not overcommitted when they sign up or when we choose them to be our contractor. So then we finally get down to a notice to proceed. We have a contractor that's selected. We agree to terms, review and sign the contract, and then coordination with utilities. And this one could be a whole bullet point in and of itself. Coordination with utilities. It's a beast in and of itself. But all that to say, okay, now we can get started on construction. So when you see the bulldozers out there, it's really been a long time coming on our side. So those of you that are in construction or in development realize that, but I just like to go through all that to let you know what Wolf River Conservancy is doing in the background. So now I want to take you through the construction progress of the Greenway. So this is a map of the Greenway. This is our full route from Mud Island all the way to Germantown when it is complete. See, it runs along the banks or the floodways, floodplains of the Wolf River, 26 miles in length. So what have we done today? Some people only know of what we've done downtown. Some people only know of what we've done in North Memphis, and others only see what's out along Humphreys. So in 2010, Wolf River Conservancy completed the Walnut Grove to Shady Grove section, which we call Phase 2. In 2012, they moved down and extended that down to Germantown. From there was a brief hiatus and really kind of a change of guard. Since 2017, Wolf River has been really hard at work. We've completed Mud Island, which is Phase 1, did that in 2017. And then in 2018, completed a long section through Kennedy Park, which is absolutely gorgeous. And along with our Phase 9 over in Eppingway, which is about a 130-acre property that the Wolf River Conservancy purchased and has basically revitalized that property. In 2019, finished the North Highlands section and also the section along North Humphreys Boulevard. This year, we have finished phases 5A and 5B along North McLean. Take you through a little bit. We have under construction now. So right now we have 4 different sites under construction. Starting west to east, Phase 4 is between North McLean and North Hollywood. This section is pretty interesting because the majority of it runs along the Army Corps of Engineers levee. So it's a really interesting landscape to ride on. You have homes to your south and then just floodplain bottoms to the north. But being up on the levee is just a really neat view that you don't get every day. Phase 10A, this is from our Eppingway property along James Road and then goes all the way to Jackson Avenue. Then we'll skip, now I'll come back to that. Phase 3A is the new trailhead, which many of you have probably seen out along Humphreys Boulevard. right at Kirby. And then 14A is our prize and joy right now. We're super excited about that. This is going to be the connection to Shelby Farms Green Line. We'll dive into that in just a second. So this is an overview of the different sections, or this is a detailed view of phase 3, which we just talked about. So this is the parking lot out at Kirby and Humphreys. It'll be very similar to the parking lot now that's across from Baptist Hospital. This project is almost complete. We hope it is done in the next week or two. So I know there's been some disruption to the Greenway, and we're very excited. And I'm sure most of the residents in East Memphis and Germantown are excited to get this done as well. Phase 4, this is the one I was telling you about that runs along the levee. You can see the picture on the top right. It's just a very unique landscape, how you sit up about at the higher than the roofs to your left. And you have a great view of kind of some floodplain bottoms off to your right. That's the route down below. We hope this will be completed first quarter of next year. Phase 10A, this is the one running from our Eppingway property. You can see in the bottom left photograph, the red area is actually the boundary for our Eppingway property. And 10A runs from there through the woods, really nice scenic kind of route through the woods out to James Road. And then we'll run along James Road in front of 2 apartment complexes and terminate at Jackson Avenue. Really excited. It's going to give a lot of access to these individuals living in these apartments into Eppingway. So we're excited about that. I think they are as well. 14A, again, this is our pride and joy that we're working on right now. This is a $5 million phase funded strictly by the Wolf River Conservancy. And it's about 1 mile in length. It runs between Shelby Farms, Green Line, and the end of 14B, which is up on North Humphreys Boulevard. And I like to tell people it's really 3 projects in one. We have a 270-foot cable-stayed bridge over the Wolf River. We have a 1/2 mile of elevated concrete boardwalk through the Lucius Birch State Natural Area, and then about 1/3 of a mile of just regular asphalt trail. We're shooting for a target completion date on that around April, May of 2021. And things are looking well at that. So I'll take you a little bit in depth on 14A. These are our bridge plans. And so this is a $1.3 million bridge, 270 feet over the Wolf River. You can see it has bridge towers on each end that extend about 53 feet above the walking surface. And so it's really going to be an impressive structure. You'll be able to view a portion of it from Walnut Grove and kind of 240. And it's really going to highlight, you know, that trail running through the Lucius Birch. So we're super excited about that. Here are a few pictures from construction. Here you can see they're installing the piles. They're pile driving. These piles are 15 piles on each bridge abutment, and those piles are 50 feet deep into the ground. So it's a lot of steel. This is our bridge that we copied. This is our sister bridge. This is over in Georgia on the Ivy Creek Greenway, and it is about the exact same length. I think our towers are maybe slightly taller than this, but you can see what a grand and impressive structure this is going to be spanning over the Wolf River. And then the boardwalk. So the boardwalk through 14A, as I said, it's a 1/2 mile long. This is close to $3 million project just for this boardwalk. It's 15 feet, 4 inches wide. It's elevated. We did this for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we're going through the state natural area. And so we wanted to have as small a footprint, you know, environmental footprint as possible. So this project is elevated. Floodwaters will go underneath it and even over the top of it if there's a large flood. But it also provides a pathway for animals underneath. So it's a very low footprint, and we're super excited about how this is turning out. Here's a little, some pictures of how this is kind of a low footprint project. This project, the boardwalk, is supported by helical piers that are basically driven into the ground. And so if you don't know what a helical pier is, think of it as just a large corkscrew. And so they take a track hoe and they drive these large corkscrews in the ground until they get to a certain bearing capacity. They come back and they cut all the pipes off at the correct elevation. And they put these plates on the top of the pipes, as you can see in the picture on the right. There, they set the beams on top of the plates, and they bolt the beams to the plates. And in the background, you can see they're setting the panels with the track hoe on top of the beams. So the picture on the right is what you end up with, where you have very, very low footprint and almost no ground disturbance. So this is turning out really, really nicely, and we're super excited. Another project that we're working on that we're really excited about as well is our trailhead signage. We're installing new trailhead signs from Mud Island all the way to Humphreys Boulevard. We have a total of 12 new signs that are about to be installed, and that should begin here this month or the first of next month. Also are installing new eco counters, which will help give us total counts on pedestrian cyclists at different places along the Greenway. And this is going to be really helpful for us when we open new sections to be able to see what the usage is. And so we have some locations where we're going to put these out, and the counters have been delivered. So installation will begin shortly on that. So what do we have left to do? So you can see from this slide, out of the way. We have several phases left to do, about 11 miles, and moving west to east, 2 city-led phases. So the city is in charge of phases 15 and 5C, and they're in charge of the design and all those items basically that I mentioned on the front end for those 2 phases. Phases 6 and 7, that will connect Hollywood over to Highland. 10B will be a connection from 10A over to Kennedy Park. And 12A, 12B, and 13 will bring us all the way back down from Kennedy Park to the Green Line. Just a schedule of what we have left to do. You can see we've completed what's in white, the 2 sections in the future that the city is leading in blue. We have about 8 or 9 sections that the WRC is leading. So you may be sitting at home and you may be fired up, really, really excited and say, well, how can I help? Well, this is a map of the funded versus unfunded sections. So you can see we have a little bit of funding left to go. So if you're dying to give us your credit card number, we'll be happy to take it tonight. Operators are standing by right now. We may even throw a Wolf River Greenway t-shirt in. I bet Nick can find a couple in his bag. But this is what we're working on in our phase 2 capital campaign. We're trying to raise another $20 million to complete the sections. And the majority of that is from Kennedy Park down to the, and with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Nick, and he's gonna talk about Greenway and what a asset it is and how we can activate it.
Thank you, Findley, for that very informative overview of how the Greenway is constructed. Very inclusive. So as building off of what Findley was saying, and what Findley has been working on building as well. Once we get the Greenway on the ground, the work is not over. We have 26 miles of Greenway that go through 22 separate neighborhoods. There's 140,000 people, within a 1 mile walk of the Greenway. So as we build this out, we want to understand more about what the community wants out of the Greenway, what sort of events they would like to see, or educational or other offerings that we can provide in terms of programming. So this year we had a lofty plan for Greenway activation. We had a $40,000 budget in which to provide free community programming and other volunteer programs to citizens of Memphis, those along the Greenway and those that visit the Greenway. But due to COVID, all of our events this year have been canceled and thus put a hamper on our plans for this year. So we had gone ahead with a limited activation this year. We had one successful program, which was called Paddle the Greenway. At our Epping Way property, we have a 30-acre lake, and we have a 60-foot floating aluminum and wood boat dock that you can see in the picture on the left. Between October 10th and the 24th, with Saturdays being the high traffic days, we had 60+ paddlers come through, and we had a very small boat fleet to stay with sort of COVID precautions, and we had all the proper sanitizing equipment for those users. So we hope to grow that program in the future with more boats and more instances that we are out doing so. And we do so with the help of our volunteer river guides. They were a great help in helping us give folks a basic lesson on how to paddle a canoe or a kayak and to navigate it on calm waters of the lake as opposed to a river. Additionally, we've launched the Greenway Ambassador Program. This is a volunteer program that these city residents can become involved in. Those folks that really love the Greenway and that on it a whole lot and want to lend a helping hand to the Wolf River Conservancy and the city of Memphis to help monitor the trails, to answer public questions, and to sort of be the face of the Wolf River Greenway to help get feedback in terms of how we can improve the Greenway for the public, what kind of programming we can offer, what type of educational signage, events, or otherwise we can offer to schools or the general public in that regard. So this year we just recently launched the ambassador program with 11 ambassadors in the 5 open sections of the Greenway. There's a large map of my right you can see. So we have ambassadors stretched across the city in different sections. They go out on their own schedule to ride the Greenway or to jog the Greenway. And eventually we're going to get maps of each sections to those ambassadors. So there'll be a point of contact on the Greenway for folks that want to learn more, want to know what's under construction or what's coming soon. You can go to the next slide, Findley. So what we hope to do in 2021 is continue our community programming to fulfill the plan that we really had for 2020, but with a new lens in the socially distant form, with proper sanitizing precautions and with that all in mind. So we have exercise courses, yoga courses, educational walks that we have planned, and working maybe in with our partners at Memphis Symphony Orchestra to bring small concerts to the Greenway that folks can enjoy in a socially distant manner. So we'll be working hard to plan great events that can be both safe and inviting for the community as we open new sections of the Greenway in the future. So I'll leave it to Kathy to explain some of the education initiatives if she would like.
Okay, I'm going to just say very briefly that 2020 has been a challenging year for education. But we have done a few things on the Greenway this year. Normally we'd be out there leading field trips and, you know, in addition to classroom programs. But this year, of course, kids can't be riding buses together. So I have had some people stop by a couple of educational displays on the Greenway. If you go to the next slide, we've also recently been putting up owl boxes and inviting Shelby County school families out to observe and take notes and photographs and communicate back with their teachers. And several have joined us, and we hope that some more will in the future. And I just want to wrap up this program by saying I think that the Wolf River Greenway is a tremendous educational resource for our city. It has the potential not just to provide great field trips for kids, but to really build the conservationists of the future, because a beautiful trail through urban wilderness areas is really where those important connections to nature are made and that follow kids through their lives. So since I'm the person who's going to be answering the questions, I'm going to thank all of the presenters this evening very much for, I think, a really outstanding presentation, which is, I think, will be really valuable for people to see if they, you know, if they want to tune into the recorded version on our website later on. So let me go ahead with the questions. We've got one here. This is probably for Findley. It's about 14B. Will there be railings along the boardwalk in 14B so cyclists don't fall over the sides? And if so, will that stop deer from crossing over?
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The 14B, yes, they're everywhere along the elevated boardwalk. We have curb where the boardwalk is less than 30 inches above the ground surface. And so there's a concrete curb that extends up about 8 inches or so. So, and that's according to building code. And anywhere that we're greater than 30 inches above the surface of the ground, we'll have a railing. And so a portion of the boardwalk will have railing, will have curb. That will not stop the deer. We have seen these deer. There are hundreds of deer out there. Every time I go out and I see deer, they run so fast. They run under the boardwalk. They run over the boardwalk. They jump it like they don't even care that it's there. We literally, the superintendent the other day told me he broke his new record. The record he had seen before was 84 in a day, and he saw 108 the other day. So there are deer aplenty out there. But no, their life, they have adjusted to the boardwalk, and they run right through it or over it or under it.
Okay, great. Here is another, I'm not sure about this question. Where is Findley, and is that the Greenway? I guess.
So I'm always broadcasting from the Greenway. It's always a sunny day on the Wolf River Greenway. And Chuck, I think he's somewhere way back there. So if I wave or shout long enough, you know, he could hear me. So we're back to back. But no, I do think this is a section in Epping Way. I could be wrong, but I believe this is over at our Epping Way section.
Okay. Here's another question. On the map, do the dotted lines indicate bike lanes on existing streets?
So I'd have to go back and look at the map, but there are probably a lot more bike lanes than I'm showing. I think the dotted lines on the map have to do with new Hamp line and the new Heights line.
Right,
So,
the dotted lines are usually going to be under construction, or they're an adjacent trail that's under construction.
okay.
Okay. What is the difference between the Shelby Farms Green Line and the Wolf River Greenway?
That's a great question. We get this all the time. So the Shelby Farms Green Line is actually a rails to trails project where they took an abandoned railroad, or vacated railroad, and purchased the right of way and created a trail. So it's a green line is the green line is linear, and it is straight. You know, there aren't any curves in it because it was a rail line. The Greenway, and that is sponsored by the Shelby Farms Park. So Shelby Farms is in charge of the Green Line, and Wolf River Conservancy is in charge of the Wolf River Greenway, along with the city of Memphis, Shelby County. They're stakeholders, as we mentioned earlier. But the Greenway follows along the Wolf River, and so it follows the meanders and the floodplains of the Wolf River. So very curvy. If you never can't remember which one you're on, if it's green line, you're straight. If you look up and if you have a lot of curves, you're on the Greenway.
Someone has commented that green line equals rail line and greenway equals waterway. Do you agree with that, Findley?
That's great. Yeah, that's a perfect way to think of it.
Okay. How about crime? Is the Greenway safe?
Yeah, you know, we've seen, and Chuck can answer this too, but you know, in a lot of areas, crime is suppressed when numbers of people come out. Crime doesn't like to be prevalent in areas where there are lots of people, and so as neighborhoods and sections are opened up, you know, we see that there's an uptick in property values, and because people are out and they're walking around and they're enjoying their neighborhood again. So Chuck, I'll let you, you've got way more experience with this.
I think I think since sections of the Greenway have been open, I'm not aware of any major crime. I think there have been some of the parking lots where cars are parked. There's been, from time to time, some vandalism, but it's not consistent. We're using the blue light camera system in places where we can put those cameras on the Wolf River Greenway. I think when you look at other urban greenways like this around the country, these greenways tend to be actually the safest landscapes in some of the neighborhoods where you might expect there would be higher crime. So generally speaking, we don't really have any, we don't have any reported crime, and we have a lot of open sections, and the sections have been open for a number of years. And I think the Wolf River Greenway is a very safe landscape today.
Yeah, and Keith has commented that there is so far zero crime on the Wolf River Greenway itself, and the vandalism is in the parking lot. Here's another question. What can I do to ensure the city of Memphis continues to advance the build out of the Wolf River Greenway and then maintains it appropriately?
That's another great question. Always, contact your elected officials and your city council representative in the mayor's office, and let them know that this is a priority for you, because without that, they don't know, and sometimes the elected politicians can get looking at their own projects or just not be in touch with the cycling or pedestrian community. And so we would always encourage you, reach out to your city council member, reach out to the mayor's office, let them know how much you enjoy the Wolf River Greenway, and that you can't wait for it to be connected all the way downtown, and you think it's a transformative project, as David Mills said, because we certainly believe it will be, and it is already.
And I'll just add that we authored a very detailed operations management plan for the city of Memphis. That was given to them a few years ago before the sections began to open up. So the Parks Department has in its hands a very, very detailed operations and management plan, including a time frame for when Greenway segments come online, a budget, how many staff and maintenance personnel are needed, how much equipment is needed, and how much the annual expenditures a year should typically be. So that plan has been written. It's in the hands of the city. So when you call your councilman and councilwoman and talk about your support for the Greenway, you can also acknowledge that there is a plan that they have in hand for how to take care of it.
Great. This is for Nick. Someone is wanting your contact information for, about the ambassador program. How can a potential ambassador find you?
Sure, great. Just email me, or you can go on our website and look at the ambassador page. But my email is nick.wiggins@Wolf River, and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. Thanks. One more question. Are there any rules for using the Greenway? Who would like to take that one?
There are, and they're going to be part of the signage package. They're written into the operations and management plan. Generally speaking, there are citywide rules for the use of bicycle and pedestrian trails. And so the Wolf River Greenway operates in accordance with those rules. And those rules will be posted at the trailheads along with the information signs that will be put up in longer term.
Okay. One rule is no motorized vehicles unless they're authorized, right? So,
That's correct.
here's another, this is a comment, a very nice one. As a leisure cyclist, I am excited for a safe way to get downtown without having to travel on streets with increasingly reckless drivers. Thank you so much for making this available. So,
We agree. It would be awesome.
yeah.
Of course.
And that is it for the questions. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to turn it back over to Keith Cole, who will wrap this up for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Chuck, Findley, and Nick. That was a great presentation. Thank you all for being here tonight. We hope you enjoyed tonight's program. And our next program is on December 8th. We're very excited to present Margaret Wrinkle. And Margaret Wrinkle is a nationally known author, writing on various topics, but most importantly, the great outdoors and conservation. Her presentation that evening will be entitled Waking Up to Nature. So a great way to enjoy the holidays is to visit us on December 8th as we listen to Margaret Wrinkle. But thank you all again for being part of this tonight. Chuck, Findley, and Nick, thank you for your presentations and all you do for the Wolf River Conservancy. So we hope you enjoyed the evening. Thank you and good night.